السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Yesterday, I'm pulling out of my street. There's a young gentleman from a nationality who shall remain nameless, hooning down the street. Last minute, he starts honking his horn. I've just looked at him, given him a few choice words. The family was in the car, so it was all age appropriate. And then he's driven off a bit further. There's a car behind him. He stops, trying to be a tough guy, puts his four-wheel drive into reverse to come back to me and reversed straight into this guy. They're genius. Have you found... first of all, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Masjid Carpark podcast, episode 1. It's been so long. Should we start with episode 1 again, Maulana?
Yeah, I mean, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. And it's been a while. When was the last one? I forgot the number. But anyway, we'll put the number up.
When you were a single man, I think.
No. We had one after. Yeah, we did have one after.
He's not a single man, ladies and gentlemen. He's still going strong. He's a papa now. He's a papa now.
Yeah.
He's giving love to a child that his grown-up children never got. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's an actually interesting topic to discuss. Because
Stepkids?
A lot of the guys that... there are a few people that listen to our podcast that do have stepchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where we're going with this, but let's just go.
Yeah.
But have you found...
Brady Bunch.
Have you found not the love, the love's the wrong word because we love all our kids, but the time that you're giving to the new batch is more quality due to the nature of the relationship that you may have had with your previous partner and everything that was going on at that time.
I don't think so.
Yes, come on, please, man.
Obviously,
You were sending me photos
it's a
of
different.
first day of school.
You're with a different person, so obviously you'll be affected by.
He's using diplomacy.
But I think it's also to do with being older. So like if you're married, they get divorced, and they get married, then like you're matured more. Obviously, you're more mature, and since you're more mature, now you look at things with a bit different perspective. Like you're just more seasoned, like more know more about life,
you've got more time.
Emotionally
to do that.
mature, hopefully.
You.
You're more empathetic. You're more emotionally.
So you said the key word there is your. So he's talking about me. Not
So one is emotionally mature and one is more empathetic. And it does take a while. Depends on the kids and what age they're at. There's so many factors. There's so many variables, and what their previous upbringing and all those sort of things.
No, I'm talking about you as an individual. The amount of attention that you're able to give someone. Or time.
But it's a different place.
I'm
in a different place in my life.
My point.
And that's what I'm saying.
I don't think it's a different place in life, though. I don't think that's
It is. You're more settled. You're more mature. I think it is.
You're just being really diplomatic right now.
No, it's not about diplomatic.
Call a spade.
No, it's not about that. Honestly, I feel like you have more life experience under your belt. Like my older son is 20.
Mashallah.
And the stepson's 5. So there's a 15-year. There's a huge, difference. So 15 years ago.
So when are we hearing the pitter patter of little feet?
Inshallah, Allah knows best. We don't know whatever Allah has written. But the point is, getting back to what I was saying.
He's trying to avoid the topic now.
So it is a reality. But then again, you look at like your stepkids can't be your kids. But they almost are like your kids, like because you live in the same house and so forth. And Islamically, you cannot, quote unquote, adopt in the sense of that there's only one way to adopt a non-biological child, which is through radha'a, through breastfeeding, and like a lady can adopt. And then the husband, of course, by extension, is also related to it. But so there is no... there is no like adoption per se that you take a child that's not biologically a child. Let's say take a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old and say this is and then you give, and the example there is with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, with Zayd bin Harith radiallahu anhu, that he was to be known, he was a freed slave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he as a child, and he adopted him, and he said he called him Zayd bin Muhammad, Zayd the son of Muhammad, until Allah told him not to do that. So there is something about the biological parentage which Islam upholds, and in a very strong way. And also on the Day of Judgment, children will be called by their fathers, their biological fathers' names. So of course this creates certain issues fiqh-wise in terms of mahram, non-mahram, who they can create if you adopt a child. We know somebody, you know them as well, and that they were adopted as a child, but because the milk cannot be given, if there's no milk there, then how can it be breastfed? Then the sister of that lady who adopted the child gave milk. So that's like his auntie. So his mum, who raised him, like his adoptive mother, is actually his auntie through breastfeeding.
Right.
Her sister. So
is the mother.
Yeah. Is the
breastfeeding?
Rada'i mother, and that she's the Rada'i auntie, but she's actually raised him like her own child. So you have these complexities that come.
That's very complex.
But having a child in your house that is not yours and you're raising them, there's barakah in that. There's something about that where you give time to somebody else. Because for your own kids, I think it's more instinctive. It's much more instant, because they really are like biological part. There has to be something there that spiritually is some connect. The fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is told, despite him being the best person, a rule is put down. No, that real parentage, biological parent does matter. So it's not to cut off in any shape or form the real parents, even though the parents.
That wasn't what I was saying.
Yeah,
I wasn't trying to cut off the real.
I
was just saying you neglected your older children.
Yeah, they're probably crying. Yeah,
they go to sleep every night.
Yeah.
Baba loves
they
you
got
more
better
than he loves
tarbiyah.
us.
They got better tarbiyah. They got better islah.
That's right.
Alhamdulillah.
They got better tarbiyah because
look, I don't want to talk about my personal life too much, but
pre-empathetic.
But it is an interesting realm to go into, and it's not just for me. Also, my wife as well. Like her getting used to my sons. It goes both ways, and
it's an interesting dynamic.
If you marry a good person, generally, then I think if they're a good human being, then you'll find that this is not a problem, not an issue. But if you meet, I think
so you hit the jackpot and your wife.
No. She married the good person.
So your wife stuffed up.
She's very fortunate.
So your wife stuffed up and you hit the jackpot.
No. She was very, very fortunate, and Allah blessed her. And her du'as got answered, and all that.
She came to Australia just in time for the voice referendum.
Yeah, exactly, to be part of this. We'll go through it next week, inshallah. The actual document, we'll go through I think it's in October, the vote.
You know what would be interesting? Why don't you put up this document as a link for this week's?
No, just go to the, if you go to the aac.gov.au, you just put in yes, no. It's the first thing that comes up.
Oh, really?
Yes, no, and it'll be the first thing that comes up. So when you go to that, when you go to it, the booklets are there, and the booklets give the arguments for both sides.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. There is I don't want to go into now, we'll go into next week, inshallah, which is that so far, the only Muslim voice that I heard no is actually the only Aboriginal. Anthony Mundine is the only Aboriginal Muslim that actually spoken up, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I don't think any other Muslim Aboriginals have spoken up. Muslim organizations generally are going yes, wholesale.
Why are Muslim organizations?
Well, I'll tell you why. Some of them feel that maybe
Muslims will have a voice to parliament.
We will have our turn one day. And that's not.
Yeah,
that's not.
I can't see that.
That is actually a real feeling by some.
Really?
That they will. They've actually expressed it. Yeah.
But then that's.
And these are educated people. These are not people that are just like.
But that's like saying Christians will have a voice to parliament, and then Jews will have a voice to parliament, then Hindus will have a voice to parliament.
We'll talk about this next week. Yeah. Let's not talk about it now, because then we can go through the arguments instead of just talking about all the potential things that could go wrong. I mean, we do have an undemocratic head of state already. The Queen. The King. Yeah. The King now, right? Our head of state is someone we never voted for and has a full... How does that...
Thousands of years away, kilometers away.
Yeah, and so strange sort of like a thing has been set up over us.
You know what? We had the adopted child.
Of what?
of Charles. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can never be family.
Yeah. He doesn't know us, doesn't ring us, doesn't say child support. You know,
There's no child
Yeah.
support.
we have but
His Centrelink CRN is different to mine. I'm not on
his
his
Medicare-
I'm not on his Medicare card.
yeah, that's right.
What are you doing to me, Charlie?
So anyway, so we'll go through it next. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll go through it next week.
Inshallah.
We'll actually go to the referendum booklet, which has the strongest arguments for both sides listed out. Constitutional, like lawyers have, they've had a say in this.
All right, let's do that next week.
Inshallah, because it's like a lot of points we need to digest it, and then, but like a lot of Islamic organizations, they're having meetings with they're just having meetings with the yes campaign, which is kind of weird because if it's about
What's the best?
then we should discuss both
Yeah.
side of views and let the Muslims. At the end of the day, it's an individual vote. Islamic organizations.
Islamic organizations just want you to vote the way they tell you to vote. They don't want you to think.
That's every organization will have a stand.
No.
AFL has presented one side of view. They support the yes.
Do they?
Yeah, John Howard. I know. I'm sorry for using his name, but for Muslims, because it brings us bad memories from 20 years ago. But like he actually did a very good argument against it, and
I can't even listen to anything he says.
yeah, because of his
I can't.
compromised judgment at the
Oh.
time of really made
I
us
can't.
like he put that
I have no respect
under his
for
watch.
him.
Like Muslims
Yeah.
went through unnecessary
pain.
yeah. So, but anyway, he's like the George. For those who don't know, he's like the Bush and Blair he's like the little boy. Trying
He's
to
the follower.
be following Bush and Blair into Iraq War, Afghanistan, all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, whatever
Allah's
came out of
given
that.
him a long
But
life. Allah has given him a long life, bro.
yeah. So,
Very long life.
but there's classes, Arabic classes going on outside, if you can hear. But what was I saying? Yeah, we'll go through all these points next week. That there is a.
All right, change the topic.
Mm-hmm.
You still on the Stairmaster?
Yeah, I went today. Yeah,
You going every
alhamdulillah.
day?
No, I'm very slack.
We haven't seen each other for a little while. Actually,
Yeah.
no, we went to dinner the other day.
Yeah,
A couple of weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago, 3 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah, mashallah.
That was a big dinner.
Yeah,
That was a big dinner. But usually, yeah.
yeah. And I've recently explored a lot of Melbourne.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's Irfan laughing in the background because
Yeah.
Maulana's become, for the guys...
I think I'm
in
social.
The guys from the 90s, he's become a metrosexual and a snag. Sensitive new age guy.
There's a lot of parks
Let's
involved.
let's go to the beach. Let's go look at flowers and
Look, cafes.
get chai in cafes.
No, look.
He's making up for lost time.
No. I'm just joking. But Melbourne's an interesting place. I realize.
Yeah, he's trying to change the topic.
I've done
from-
qada of all the places I missed.
Well, what did you?
No, there's some interesting spots. Have you been to Caroline Springs,
Yeah.
the center of town?
Are you serious?
First time I went there. I've driven around it. I've never actually driven into it. It's actually a nice place. I live in the west. I drive past it. I melt into Doncaster, and I drive
You
north
just
of it, south
said
of
you
it,
made
in the
Qatar
middle.
of Melbourne, and your go-to was Caroline.
No,
Springs.
as an example. As an
Bro, that's
example.
depressing.
No. It was interesting. Like,
What did you find interesting about it?
They had that lake with the fountain. They had a shopping center, and then they had
Every
Islamic
development's
school
got a-
there, and
every
then they've got like
development's got a lake
cafes
with a
there.
fountain.
Yeah, but it's so busy. Have you seen how busy that place is? Isn't it? It's actually very lively. It's like a center of town sort of place.
The West is becoming like that.
No, but like Caroline Spring, if you go drive out 2 minutes out, it becomes dead again, like suburbia. But in the middle, they've created this nice town centre, which is really good, interesting.
And so that's what you've enjoyed about Melbourne.
No, I'm just saying, there's all these.
Tell me one other thing
No.
that where I'll be like, oh, okay, he's actually done something. Don't tell me. Let me guess.
The Loom?
Tani.
the Loom.
Oh yeah, the
Gallery.
art gallery.
Yeah.
Did you see the Aboriginal one?
No.
Okay. There's currently an Aboriginal
I went to
exhibition
see
going on
Monet.
as well. Oh, okay. And how did you find it?
The water lilies was fantastic.
I remember taking my son.
French
when,
impressionist
I
painting.
just remember taking my son when he was young. He stands in front of a Picasso. I go, Emma, do you know how much this painting's worth?
Yeah.
He stands in front of the Picasso. 5 minutes, he's just staring and goes, I could do better. And just walked off.
Yeah.
They just don't appreciate art, this new generation. They don't understand what the colours and what the artist is portraying to
I think
portray.
Picasso was like an NFT of his era,
Animation.
maybe. Yeah.
Picasso,
What happened to
Picasso
NFTs,
was,
by the way?
They're back. They'll come back.
They'll come back? Really?
Yeah, they will come back.
Okay.
This happens.
Let's talk
This
about
is
Bitcoin.
just the whole crypto dormancy stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're coming up to now every 4 or 5 years. So we're coming up to another.
You don't think it's going to go backwards?
No,
Really?
give it a year.
Okay.
Prepare for it, Malana. Start investing now.
Yeah.
Give me your cash, I'll do it for you.
All right.
And if you lose it all, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with NFTs, but I think the market's matured a lot more
Okay.
than the gold rush era.
What do you mean gold rush?
The last NFT phase where everyone was just jumping on board and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I think there's going to be some changes.
Yeah.
What are you doing on your phone, young man?
I'm just checking. Kim Jong-un is in...
Mr. Kim Jong-un
he
on the way to
traveled on
Russia.
the Oriental Express to
Nah, it wasn't
Russia.
Orange, his
No,
own
I'm just
private
joking.
train.
Yeah.
This is the funny part. This train is bulletproof. It's impervious to small arms fire. But if someone sends a missile, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because your carriage is going to go flying.
I think he's
It's
visiting.
his false sense
He's
of
visiting
security.
Putin.
Yes.
But I thought North Korea was a really poor country, which it probably is.
North Korea is going to
Supply the
replenish-
ammunition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because then it begs the question, where are they getting all this metal from? Where are they getting all these raw products from that they're using
China?
to manufacture arms? Yeah.
Yeah, they were coming from China indirectly.
I think what we imagine a certain country to be and what the reality is two very different things.
Yeah.
Like
I reckon China, because China's the main lifeline for North Korea. I think North Korea is like the crazy cousin, brother, whatever, communist, right? And they're the stick that whenever they need to ramp up things and to distract the West with, they use them. It's my opinion.
So Kim Jong-un is the crazy cousin of Xi.
Yeah, like no, they use them like whenever they need to like just sort of put pressure on the
Do you
West.
think though? Do you
I
think
think
Kim
so.
Jong-un is that malleable?
I think so. I think they need China. Without China, they will not survive. I think a lot of what they have, yeah.
But he's got his own private train that he travels on. His father was quite averse to traveling on flights as well.
It's out of. He's got.
Fear of just, I don't know, being shot down or whatever it is.
Okay. Well,
But,
we saw what happened in Russia. Yeah.
bro,
Yeah. Prigozhin,
you know what
the guy of
most
Wagner Group, the one who
ruthless thing was?
his mate.
After that, where Putin comes out and gives condolences to the families.
Yeah. Yeah, we had our
That
differences.
is another level of ruthlessness because everyone's like, dude, you did it.
Yeah.
Allah knows best.
Yeah. I was listening to something today about Russia. There's a guy from England, he's a comedian, but he's like he's from the Soviet Union. I think he's a Soviet Jew who their family migrated to Britain, and then his grandmother was like from Ukraine, Soviet Ukraine. And he's talking about for Russia, it's a very interesting point. They've been taught about the troubles or the troubled days or something. He talks about this, where Russia has these like memories of whenever they were weak, Poland and other countries took advantage of them.
Really?
Historically, like all these neighboring countries, they pushed them around and subjugated them and like that. So that they call them the troubled days or whatever. So this part, like it's driven into their school books, like the Russian mentality, psyche, that you have to flex your muscle. You have to push back. So their whole sort of thing, this is not going to end like anytime soon, it looks like. Like they will keep going, and they've got the gas and oil supply, and they're circumventing the sanctions and all that they will always find a way.
The countries that are putting these sanctions on them are circumventing the sanctions.
Yeah, exactly. Europeans,
It's so ironic.
Yeah, they tell one country that you can't do it, and the country's no, we need it, and then okay, all right, you guys need it. Like it was a point of saying it all, but they are hurting them, but at the same time, they're going to be around. It seems to be they're going to be around for a while. Like based on what this guy was saying, he goes, you have to understand the history.
Who's going to be around? Russia's going to be around.
Putin even may be around, and the regime will be around for a while. It's not going to just like disappear because they're committed to this action. And the reason they're committed is there's a lot of background is not just about them losing grip on power. It's not about the Russians respect, and this is why he was saying that his support is so high. Putin's support is so high.
Is it high?
It is high, and the reason it's high
Within Russia.
In Russia, because they know that a strong man will protect Russia from that whatever threat is, even if it's perceived threat, or that historically it was always a strong man who set things right, set the house in order right. Wow. So you see, like they have an inclination towards that, and it's driven in the education system to always emulate a strong leader. So, wallahu alam. I mean, this is probably the biggest thing that's happening in the world. People are dying thousands and thousands every day. But
But I've seen a lot of things where...
Yeah, we have to. Like, you have to...
Bro, you're not on camera.
Yeah.
You need to be on camera with these comments.
We have to be, you know, because the news, it's always in the news.
This is Irfan sitting in the background.
We have to know.
He's having one of those days where he doesn't want to show us his beautiful face.
You know what's been happening recently, the last 2 months in Melbourne? There's so many sheikhs have come from UK.
There has been.
Sheikh Mufti Muhammad Adam came, and Sheikh Hassan Ali came, Mufti Abdul Rahman came, and Sheikh Yasser Hanafi came.
You're not enough for us or something?
And they were like, no, I'm not. Like, alhamdulillah, we have getting them. But there's different mashayikh and ulama organising these mashayikh, and they've been doing programs across Melbourne and Sydney and other places. Just can you guys spread yourselves out a little bit? Like, did you guys sit together and say, "Oh, we're just gonna, just they came on mass in the, like come in December, come in January." Like they're coming like just en masse. They came like we were finishing with one, another one was starting, and then there was another one. I had to say like I can't do it. There was another one came, a fifth one, and I said I can't do this. I said enough, like because I have to organise programs and itineraries.
What did you say? Was there another one here?
There was another. He came through somebody else, and they organised programs for him as well.
Excellent.
And so also from the UK. So they came, but he came as well. But
maybe it was
But I just about Daniel Haqiqa Drew came.
Yeah, but what happened there?
Unfortunately, it was very limited in the thing. I think a lot of masjids might have.
Because you don't like him?
Who said that? Like, I don't know. He like unfortunately Melbourne, and like the thing is that it just takes one woke committee member in any organisation that to basically I don't like that because he critiques things too accurate. Like, if you put you might not like his style. Putting style aside, right, and his sense of humor aside, and it can be crass. Someone might consider crass, but if you're looking at it from the Islamic point of view, right, like what's he actually saying? Substance, like break it down, right? Who are actually opposing him?
Yeah,
right. Like he exposes those that are that are paid by state to. Not for the benefit of Islam, but to basically...
Sheikhs you're talking about?
Yeah. That are paid...
Sheikhs paid by state?
That are, yes, all over the world. But basically to prop up the state. Like they actually to their legitimacy, right? So they'll never criticize any even mistakes. That's what Sheikh Hassan Dido, like is just recently, I saw an audio of him. He was telling for example, Saudi sheikhs. He said that you guys were... At the end of the world, somebody does something makruh. You guys are basically telling people to shirk. They're doing shirk and kufr and so forth. Now in your own capital, things are happening that are so bad.
Yeah.
But silence from you guys.
Wow.
Like Shahzad is well known. He's based in Qatar, I think, and in Mauritanian. Great alim. He came to Australia recently, a few months ago. MashaAllah. But he said that. That's like every sheikh put it up. Outside of their countries, they put that up, especially Arab countries, they put it outside of their... those Arabs that are outside of Arab countries, they put it up on their their profiles and whatnot, on their Facebook pages. But it's something to be said so that's one thing he criticizes. He criticizes all the isms, liberalism, feminism, and all these things. Yeah, these are antithetical Islam, and we need someone that's got a spine and can actually attack those things intellectually, break them down.
Yeah.
Not just like a buffoon just shouting and carrying on and not understanding the underpinnings, the history, development, and so forth, and really study it. It can't be done. He actually does study his stuff.
Yeah, it's not just
he's got a way of presentation, but at the same time, he does know his stuff and presents it and researches his stuff. And you can go to debate for 2-3 hours, and that shows you the person is well read and knows his stuff. It's not a superficial. just like it's not a TikTok, right? It's actually a critique, academic critique, done in a very entertaining sometimes style and a debating style and a combative style sometimes. That's what you need for those guys, because those guys are not coming at you nicely. They're basically saying your prophet is false and your Islam is false and Deen is false. So you need someone to actually have a spine, actually go toe to toe to them, and he does. MashaAllah, does a brilliant job with very good debaters on the other end as well. So he's not like dealing with a rabble. He's dealing actually with the people who defend the intellectual legacy of falsehood, ironically. So that's the thing. But the thing is that many Muslims in many Islamic organizations, and if you spend some time around them, then those that are there's a certain type of
wokeness creeping in.
Yeah, wokeness, and then appeasing everybody. And as soon as they know, okay, that guy's actually going to rock the boat.
Do you think it's because these committees, they're the older generation?
It's not just older generation.
Mid-range during the time of September 11, so it was all apologists, and now that's a hangover of it?
Yeah, probably.
Whereas the new generation just does not care.
Yeah, probably younger ones are better. The ones probably raised.
The younger ones are better.
The ones that are Deen inclined, younger ones generally in Australia, they've got much more of a spine.
And they're more confident.
And they're not scared to voice if they think
and they're
something.
Not apologists.
Yeah. Yep. There's probably more hope coming from them to a certain degree.
I agree.
Inshallah. Then I think the old generation, they serve their purpose. They set up the committees and they like the bureaucracy and organizations and elections and all those sort of things. But I think in terms of moving the ummah to something where they're confident and actually can articulate, he's probably from that generation, like a sort of newer generation.
Yeah, yes.
He's not like maybe he's younger than us, so he's probably more. And there's not just one in England, especially even Australia. Brothers are coming more quote unquote like more conservative or quote unquote more real Muslims, like they're actually true to the values of Islam and the practice of Islam.
More educated, not in terms of
more aware
degrees, but just Islamic education, Islamic history. How certain things came about. Which is a great sign.
And they got access to all these social media and everything like that. It just, inshallah. I mean, I think that the like I said, there was a post. Someone said something about one of the sheikhs. I said this in Jummah last week, and one of the sheikhs said that they're quoting one sheikh from the Middle East who said to his daughter, like, don't move to a certain Western country, and because like your children might be Muslim, but your grandchildren won't. Now, of course, his analogy is correct for the time that he gave in like 30, 40, 50 years ago, based on what happened to his community that moved to many parts of the world, like in North America and South America. So like his community specifically, they moved to those countries, disappeared, dissolved, right? It's similar to what we have, the Afghan Kamaliyas came. Now, if you base our current situation based on 100 years ago, so that's why I said the next 100 years, the next 100 years, inshallah, are better than the past 100 years.
Inshallah.
Right? And there are weaknesses. There will be people fall prey.
Against the Prophet ﷺ says, best time is my time, the time after that, then time after that. And then each successive time will be worse than the one before.
Well, if we do a comparison to the world that the Afghan Kamaliyas came, or the Muslims, they're not all Kamaliyas, farmers came at the early 20th century, was not a very good time to be practicing Muslim
in Australia.
For the long period of time for your progeny, and hence why majority of their grandkids or great grandkids are not Muslim, right? They didn't really become non-Muslim, because I met them in Port Pirie, Port Augusta. They didn't really become Christian, like church-going Christians, and they were like, they
just petered out.
Exactly, yeah. So they didn't have anyone to teach them. So firstly, the knowledge wasn't there. At the early 20th century, you don't have masjids that are teaching classes. You don't have an ulama amongst them. There's maybe the odd one or two, maybe a rare one, but generally there was no ulama among them. There's no concept of like a hafiz of Quran. Even the part of the world that they came from, these were simple, poor laborers. Yes, some of them might have Quran with them, books with them. They had a worry to build a masjid. They can feel a loss of azan and salat, so forth. But they were hard workers. They were travelers. So they're constantly on the move, right? A rolling stone gathers no moss sort of thing. So they were like they didn't establish, and then only some of them stayed. The rest went back. Not all of them stayed in Australia. And even like someone that we know, he said in the 30s, this is directly I heard from him, he said in 30s, his sisters, like they came in 1901, he said his father realized that Australia is not a good place to raise daughters in the 30s, obviously. So you send them back to India, right, the subcontinent. So they grow up there, mature, marry and everything. Then they came back, sort of thing. So, like, there were people that had that understanding that this was not the place. But here now, in this time and age, like where we have masajid, durus, and like we got to compare. We're comparing sometimes apples with oranges. Yeah, we're not comparing the same things. If you live in Australia, you're living the equivalent of upper middle class or middle class, closer to upper middle class standard of living back home.
Yeah.
Right? Those communities that live there, those gated communities and so forth that live like in India or the Arab world or wherever it is.
There's more of an attack on their iman than there is here.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. That they are susceptible to atheism and all those sort of things, sometimes even more than here, depending on which gated community and schools that you go to. You go into private colleges and so forth over there. So the idea of a Muslim country, which Muslim country are you talking about, firstly, that you live in it? I understand. There's a push for hijrah to certain. People are talking about, no, they generally talk about Jordan, Turkey, and Malaysia. These are sort of 3-4 names that generally come up. Yeah, well, Malaysia more so because for Westerners, that's more of like a better country generally. Turkey's like on the radar at the moment, like for, you know, and I get it. Like if you live in a Muslim country, Muslim majority country, but then if you go there, then you are not living in a village.
No, you're not.
You'll be living with the upper middle class. You'll have all the conveniences that you have here. Try to recapture them there. Unless you're in a very strong, like Memon community in Kenya or something like that, mashallah. But, you have your own thing happening. But, and that's established over, 100 years and whatever. And like,
is it very strong in Kenya, Irfan?
Yeah. Yeah, they've been there for so long, and then they came at such a time, they established all these, Allah gave them that worrying concern that they established institutions. And here, we had people that in the 50s, 60s, 70s, early Lebanese, Turkish, Bosnian community, they established masajid, then they built into Islamic schools, then into other institutions.
There's a fair few masjids.
So they, Albanians and all this, they mashallah, and barak alayhim, that there's a debt that we owe to them, and they built this sort of thing. So I think the future is better as long as we don't water it down. Like Islam is Islam. Leave Islam alone. That's the first thing. Don't try to change Islam. Like that's a thing.
Yeah,
and especially fundamentals. Like a fatwa can be there that didn't exist before, right? For a certain, a new thing like that comes up, right? How do you pray salat on an airplane, as an example, right?
Or Tesla.
Or a Tesla, yeah. You could get a Tesla van. So the like a new circumstance occur, the muftis will process it and so forth. But changing the fundamentals of deen, like moving the goalposts and just change, this is halal now, right? This is like, no, you don't have to wear hijab. Like this, there's those type of extreme groups.
Is anyone saying that?
Yeah. There's a certain group that come out of, they said, no, it's not even compulsory.
To wear hijab?
Yeah. You have these type of like weird groups that will pop up, which basically allows one thing, which is, they always seem to never make anything hard. They always make the things easy, and they always make and their ease is always in line with Western values, norms, right? You can be a Western living Muslim and practicing deen as well. Look, we know that we have many examples of in the community, but it's just strange that they sort of. When I read that post, I was like, that's not a very good assessment. You're comparing, like the sheikh when he gave that answer, then to someone cut it and posted now, 50, 30, 40 years later, the circumstances have changed. You have ulama being trained so in the West, like in westernized countries like Australia, like Canada, there's ulama trained for like 40 years in the UK, 50 years nearly now, more than four decades, have been trained locally. They don't have to go overseas for studies. They get all their ulum, hifz and everything, qira'at and everything. Same in South Africa. Like pretty much you can do all your studies and everything, A to Z pretty much in your own country. And Australia will get there one day, right? But the thing is that it's something, there's something like there are good things to take where we are. Like I was reading, someone sent a post, this interesting post, Maulana Ubaidullah Sindhi, in the one of my favorite ulama from the early 20th century in India. He said that every madrasa graduate, traditional ulama, should go spend 6 months in the West.
Wow.
It's a very interesting thing. To learn how small countries became dominant, to learn how their work ethic, to learn how they don't consider any job beneath them.
Yes.
Like from an Indian perspective,
Yeah,
right? Subcontinent perspective, right? Bharat perspective. Bharat, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it Bharat? Is it? No, I'm just asking. Is it Bharat? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
That's like the new name for. It's supposed to be the name for India. Apparently, Pakistanis don't like
It's been
India
around
because
for ages.
India is the pre partition name, and then India. I think India now adopted. It's India, like it's India, like I don't know what.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. But but think about it. The early 20th century, telling this Maulana Alim is telling. He was known for his firasat, his foresight, extreme foresight. That he's telling the Muslims that you need to send these alim Maulanas need to go 6 months in the West when you're occupied by the British.
Yeah.
Right?
Think about how small the UK, the British were, and they took over India.
Yeah,
They took over
he goes, you need to go
Africa, they took
study.
over
You
many
need to go
countries.
study. You need to just travel and just observe them for 6 months.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that because we you know, like we
Well,
can
you live in Melton.
yeah, maybe not there, but but no. But there's a reason why, you know, like it's not like he's not aloof. He traveled. He was probably the most well-traveled alim, one of the most well-traveled ulama in the early 20th century. Like he was in Russia and he was in Turkey. He saw the Turkish Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution, and he saw the world. Like, you know, and he had a unique perspective. But he said that you need to take certain things from them. This is the reason why
They were so successful.
they were successful. And he said, when are people that are trustworthy in their business, we know that in Australia, that when we do dealings in business, generally, it is a much more safer proposition.
Yeah.
Like you go to Facebook or you go to eBay, Facebook market, and
Marketplace.
eBay, like they will show you all the scratches. Generally,
Yeah.
Generally, most people generally think the first thing you do is you look at the postcode, you look at the suburb, and then second thing is look at the name. You know what I'm talking about. You look at the name. All right, Mo. Like no, but like you look at it and then sadly, generally in Australia, we've lived our whole lives here pretty much. In dealings, we can hands down say that it's better. You're from India, your background, mine from Pakistan. Can we say that our dealings are here, the people's dealings here, are better than those countries?
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I can speak for other countries. You guys can judge yourself that they're much better. That people generally respect someone who works. Doesn't matter what the work is.
Yeah.
If he's a plumber, it's respected
in a
for.
pub, you can have a heart surgeon and someone, and I'm not belittling being garbage man or anything like that. They'll sit next to each other, have a meal and have a chat.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even imagine in India anyone stepping down from their pedestal.
Yeah. How many pubs you attend, mate?
I'm not a heart
Part of
surgeon,
your
bro.
But it is something.
Yeah, I'm waiting
he
for
says.
the-
He
I'm
says.
waiting
He
for the
says.
halal
He says.
counter meals.
Look what he says. Look what he said to study. Study like we're studying civilization, like great civilization of history. Yeah. But he said the modern world that we live in. All right, who's successful? All right, this guy's successful. These people are successful. These countries, how did they do
get
it? Yeah, they might have done it ruthlessly through colonizing a foreign country, but they did it. They went around the world. They colonized another country. You go and colonize another country at the other side of the world. Like coming to the yes/no debate, right? That they were successful. No, Muslims were successful colonizers as well. Yeah, it was done in the name of Islam. It was, but Muslims did take over. Like I was discussing this today. Like,
So where did we lose it?
huh?
Where did it all go wrong?
I think
Too much
the
comforts of
hadith.
the dunya?
We'll finish off with this because it's getting very late and I have to go.
Oh, that's right. If this was a few months ago,
I have to make a roll call.
We would have been chilled out, but now he's
That
weak.
hadith says it all.
You
إذا
are
وصل
weak.
الأمر إلى غير أهل فانتظر الساعة. When the matter is entrusted to people who are not fit for it, wait for the hour. One of the signs of day judgment, like things that fall apart. When things are entrusted because of nepotism,
So scary.
that things are given not for the person who, especially in the matters of state,
Yeah, but look at it now. The whole world.
the whole world, even here as well, to a certain degree, is getting there. Where out of
Albanese's son just got the Qantas, the Chairman's Club membership at 23 years old.
wow, congratulations to him. But you see, like it's nepotism, scratching backs. That old boys club always existed, but people were chosen. Maybe they chose people based on talent more. You know, like Clive of India, right? I think Maulana Tariq Jamil was describing one talk. The time that the British, what is it, East Indies?
East India Company.
Yeah. When he like basically took over the India, it's a private company, right? And the way he took over it, like Maulana Tariq Jamil described that this guy he used to be on horseback from morning to from dawn till dusk. At the same time, the quote unquote Muslim rulers in like Mir Jafar and Mir whatever, like those guys, these guys were like so like they were on opium. They used to wake up like after like midday.
Yeah.
And they had like slave girls and all this. Like enjoy. How are you going to compete with that? Right? How are you going to compete with this guy who, just even from a dunya point of view, that the guy is a workhorse. He never got accepted fully into the British establishment because of the class system that they do have there. The British have that as well still to a certain degree. But he wanted like certain elite things, which is a contradiction here is that they still have that and they had that at that time as well. But at the same time, they generally do award merit, right? More so.
No, for the working class, they award merit.
Mm.
That's the difference. And they will allow the working class, whoever's capable, to rise.
Mm.
That's why you have CEOs and CFOs and all these things. But in our countries, the working class man can work and work and work and work.
Yeah.
But look what's happening now. The most recent thing, like the whole thing about caste system.
Yeah.
From India. So if you're of a lower caste, Silicon Valley had that. You're not going to get hired
Yeah,
into jobs.
there's actually a bill that's introduced. She's a Muslim lady,
And
if
the
I remember
crazy
correctly,
thing is,
in the US, and she's introduced a bill,
And-
anti-caste system bill in California somewhere.
And there's
But they-
thousands of people protesting against it.
Yeah, and then the reason, but what they rephrased it now, the ancestry, what do you call discrimination? So it's called ancestry.
Yeah, but
So it's not just even though it's targeted
yeah.
towards the Indian caste system, because they basically are excluding. So basically, to understand the caste system, it's a Hindu concept that people are from different parts of the idol, whatever, like they're made from it, created from it. So they're totally like different. They're not the same human beings, right? Like you're a Brahman. Brahman is like at the top. That's a priestly class. I remember one friend was giving dawah to this lady, the stewardess, on a flight, and the lady that's working there, I think it's an Indian airline, giving dawah to her, and she goes, "I'm Brahman, like I'm from the top."
Yeah.
You're a flying waitress, lady. You know, like but she asserted her caste in offense, like in defense, not like okay, I'm Hindu.
Yeah.
I'm from this caste.
Yeah, you can't touch me.
Yeah, like your dawah is, I'll reject your dawah. Very similar to the mullah that's mentioned in the Quran. Like the mullah, but here the mullah is a flying waitress. But anyway, the mullah is like the movers and shakers society. It's always mentioned in the Quran. They reject the prophets always because they believe they're from a higher thing. They don't want to be with the rebel, like the people that said to Rasulullah ﷺ that we want, move these slaves around you out, like Bilal Habashi, Suhaib Rumi, all these people will come and listen to you and talk to you, but we can't sit with you while these are there. No, like Islam doesn't discriminate like that. So especially in the Prophet, right? So anyway, where were we before?
You were talking about the caste system and
No, before the caste system. Yeah, so this lady, she passed, and before that, we're talking about how did we end up with her?
We've just gone everywhere. We're talking about taking over colonialism and taking over.
Yeah. So if a person is successful, like they successfully colonize, like every country has colonized every other country. Muslims
And
also,
they still- but they're
and the
still
Muslims
doing
still do annexing and colonizing.
France
Historically,
has
we
still got
did
an
it.
extremely strong hold in Africa.
Yeah.
And they say like.
So
you
why
guys
is
are
their
free.
colonialism and their asserting their power in Niger and all this? Why is it any different to Russia taking chunk of Ukraine? Like you got to put the same standard.
But this whole Ukraine situation has really brought to the fore the double standards of the West.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to refugees, the way the UK opened up their doors and all these other countries open up
Yeah.
their doors for Ukrainians and adopting
Yeah.
them, and like no process, just come straight in. Whereas you've got people that are
Yeah.
genuinely coming from like their countries have been bombed to smithereens.
Yeah,
And
there's a real that is one of my favorite podcasts. What do you call it? The Thinking Muslim. They had a podcast there with Lauren Booth. I think she's Tony Blair's sister-in-law,
Okay.
and she's talking about the French and the obsession of French of removing clothes, because they just put a abaya band in the
Yeah.
schools, right? And the way they like there's an obsession with them of like she said that it's a sick society, that when you want to remove items of clothing from people's bodies. The way she explained it is very articulate and interesting. And she talks about their obsession with this thing. It shows that there's a rot in the society.
Yeah.
Culturally, there's a rot in the society. And I think on one side we can, with colonialism, like back to the original topic we're talking about, which is why Monobil Sindhi, that's what I was saying. So what he was saying is the ulama travel for 6 months and then they should see the world, right? And he quotes Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Hanifa's student, who was the Chief Justice of Harun Rashid, right? He was a Qadi al-Qudat, the Chief Justice. And he said that an alim who's not aware of his time, he's not allowed to give fatwa. He should not be permitted to give fatwa. He should be aware of the time and place that he's in, right? And therefore have a good understanding. That's why the madrasa my father studied in Mazhar Ulum, is the oldest madrasa in Karachi. So it's only the name is left now because it's not the formal, like it was the first madrasa more than 100 years old. Karachi, before it became Karachi, the big city metropolis. So this madrasa, it was the Jamiat Ulama headquarters in Karachi at the time, 100 years ago we're talking about. So that madrasa was unique because it was a Jamiat Ulama madrasa. Then every day, all the newspapers of the day were there, available to the students to read.
Wow.
In the madrasa, because they should be aware of what's going on. Right? They should be, if I start putting newspapers, the committees.
You don't need to put newspapers now. Just get
on your phones and read a little bit what's going on. Like you need to be aware of like how economics work, how politics works, and like your fatwa is in a exists in a context.
Private schools,
Yeah.
Western private schools, they still teach Shakespeare. They still teach the philosophers of the past, right? So Aristotle, all of these, they teach you history, how different armies conquered. We don't learn that in public schools.
If anybody wants to know about this stuff, there's a video of John Talagato, 14 things that private school teaches at public school, and one of them is they teach you psychology, history, law, and not for law, history. They teach you the theory of human nature, what makes people tick, right? Like, because if you're going to become a future prime minister, that's where they're preparing the students for leadership of society,
of everything,
in industry, commerce, everything. They're preparing the students not to be because their parents are they're paying $50,000 a year because they're probably leaders of industry themselves. They're not just rich people. They probably own CEOs of companies and so forth. So they want those things to be instilled in them. They'll have smaller classes. They pay the extra money, but they get quality education. And
also, a lot of these kings' and queens' children, not just the Middle East, go to these schools to study.
Yeah.
Like Kim Jong-un actually studied in a private school in Sweden.
Switzerland.
My
father taught there.
Those teachers.
My father taught in that school.
Really?
Yeah. He was Imam in Bern.
Did he have Kim Jong-un as a student?
Maybe. I don't know.
He stuffed up, bro.
His prep student.
What did he teach him?
I think he was teaching Arabic or something at that
Travel on
school.
the train.
I can't remember what he was teaching, but he actually taught at that school for a little bit. Or I think they called him some classes or something. Yeah, in the 80s. We're talking about 80s. But anyway,
that's when he would have been there.
Huh?
That's when he was
he was there for 6 years.
And
Imam there. Yeah. Like mid-80s.
Kim Jong would have been in 90s.
Huh?
He would have been in school in the 90s.
Yeah.
90s or 2000s.
Yeah. But something to reflect upon. I don't know. We're talking about things, big things. Those in madrasas, ulama, they do need to the syllabus stays the same. He's not telling he's saying what his experience. He was in exile for 25 years.
Yeah.
In all these countries, and he ended up traveling and so forth. And so he developed. He realized, traveling and just observing and writing and thinking, and watching people, and this is watching people what they're doing. and the way they do things. You should take lessons from that. We have great things in Australia that maybe, like for example, we don't have a class system the level that it is in the UK.
I love Australia.
Yeah, like there is a thing that we can appreciate because they hate the class, they hated the English, and they hated the English class system. Australians have much more. They're more. It's much more of a meritocracy than other countries, even more than Britain probably. So it's interesting like that. Like we can say, okay, we're going to make hijrah and this and that, but like where are you going to? What type of compound you're going to be living?
Where are you going to? Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for that.
Yeah, and what's the justification of staying here? That's a huge question. We'll answer it now. Like why? No. Why are you staying in Australia if you're not giving dawah and so forth? There's a huge question. We won't get into that now. But so that is a question to ask. What is your point of existence living as a minority, right? But
that one's too deep for this time of night, bro.
Yeah, I think so. We won't start that discussion. That's a big fiqh discussion. There's a lot of ins and outs to that. It's not so clear cut in our time, and based on people's circumstances as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you for watching.
Jazakumullah khairah.
Please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. I should be saying that at the start.
Yeah.
I've noticed every other podcast I listen to, right at the start, they say...
Inshallah, we're just warming up. It's been a while, and we're getting back into it. Inshallah, we'll try to have interesting guests. Inshallah, we missed many alims that came here. We don't want to bother them too much because the way where we live, and then also bringing them from programs, it's a time-consuming affair. Plus,
they're tired.
Plus, it gets very hot and cold in here. So inshallah, tomorrow somebody's coming in to do some... There's no proper heater here, no proper AC here. So we're getting some installation.
So it's going to be freezing in here.
No, there'll be an AC, which will be a heater and a cooler, cooling for this room, and also outside as well. So make it, I guess, comfortable, inshallah. And hopefully we'll have more prepared topics, inshallah. But next week, stay tuned. We will be talking about the voice, and we will just go through the document and discuss it a little bit. So we read up on it, but the yes and no. We will not give you you will have to. Abdul Wajid. He's for the yes, obviously.
No, I'm not.
And I'm for the inclined towards. But we'll have try to make a balanced presentation, as opposed to many of the Muslim organizations. They're presenting like one-sided view and not even discussing. And this is part of the problem in this current discussion, that people don't know the details. So let's go through the actual official document, and maybe we can present some of the voices of both sides, inshallah, as well.
And we can have John Farnham come in and sing.
Bring Johnny.
On the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.